Hello and welcome everyone to today's presentation on virtual remote inspection, expanding contactless agency services. Thank you for being here today. My name is Ellen Swanson and I'm the Marketing Director at HR Green. I'll be serving as your moderator today. So just a few housekeeping notes real quick. Our presentation should take about 45 minutes. We will allow for a Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. So as you have questions, please enter those in the Q&A panel, which you can access on the lower center right of the Zoom webinar frame. I'll be watching for your questions, so please go ahead and enter them at any time. We are recording today's webinar, and as a registered attendee, you will receive a link to today's presentation. All attendees are in listen-only mode and will remain so for the duration of today's session. Now, please allow me to introduce today's presenters who will talk with you about solving your challenges and serving your citizens as we head into our post-pandemic world. First up is Tim Jonason. Tim is Assistant Practice Leader for our Governmental Services business line. He has over 30 years of project and program management, municipal engineering, and construction management experience, and is a recognized leader in the deployment of technology to local agency clients. Since joining HR Green in 2017, Tim has worked in the city of Jurupa Valley, California, and is coordinating with the Southern California Association of Governments on its remote services enhancement initiatives. In addition to his private sector work, Tim previously served as Public Works Director and City Engineer for the city of La Quinta, California, overseeing engineering, planning, and building and safety processes. Next is Don Plass. Don is a master code professional and certified building official. He's been an instructor of building and fire codes and has extensive residential and commercial construction management experience. He holds over 40 International Code Council certifications in multiple disciplines. Don is very involved in energy and sustainability compliance, is a certified LEED accredited professional, and Building Performance Institute Building Energy Analyst, and has received international awards for energy and sustainability. And with that, I will turn today's presentation over to Tim.
Thank you, Ellen, and welcome everyone to what is the second webinar in our series for creating your own virtual city hall through contactless counter and project delivery services. This series is actually based on a white paper that I authored. And that was based on survey results from agencies across the United States on what services that they were trying to deliver virtually at that time during the pandemic, but also want to continue after, hopefully we're through with this. It contains the white paper itself. If you go to the link there, you see it contains best management practices for your agency that you may want to consider for meeting your customers where they are these days, which is largely online. So the entire white paper can be found at the link along with the survey results. But today we're going to talk about remote virtual inspections. I'm going to be talking to Don, and he is one of HR Green's certified building officials. So I think it's important to be able to offer remote inspections for certain types of inspections, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, for the safety and convenience of residents and your inspection staff. And on top of that, there can be a significant time savings and cost savings for your agency. So these can be challenging services, though, for many agencies. I think meeting these challenges are necessary because the public often requires that you meet them where you are, like I mentioned, online. If you want to be a customer service centric organization, I think this is something that can help with that. But I know in my experience in working with the different departments that often these technology implementations can be difficult, and especially a change in process. And so maybe Don, maybe you can start off with, how as a building official working with multiple agencies, you were able to get comfortable with this concept, I should say, of remote inspections.
Well, good afternoon, Tim, and thanks for the introduction. Today's topic of remote virtual inspections ties very well into your virtual city hall Using cell phones and tablets has opened up a creative way to perform the required building inspections remotely in a safe and a reliable format. HR Green has placed me within several different Northern Illinois municipalities here. Currently, I'm with the village of Palatine, and this is, I think, one of the more forward-thinking municipalities that I've worked with that, as you mentioned before, a lot of the people are online, and in Palatine, they have the opportunity because the website is open. They have a portal that they can go to for the citizens and the contractors, and it's a very open municipality for electronics. The village closed its doors to the public, as most jurisdictions did for COVID, and they came into the office. Some of the inspectors stayed at home and they worked from their computers at home. The building department is mostly electronic and was electronic, as I mentioned, prior to COVID. And during the COVID lockdown, the permit applications just kept coming into the village website portal. Electronic plan reviews were conducted, and permits were electronically paid for and were issued. So most of the time they would have questions about the residential. You know, COVID is the part where you have to stay away and people don't like to have you in your house, strangers in the house anyway, at least they didn't. But commercial, you could be in an open area and you could maintain the CDC's guidance on there for social distancing and masking. The question was, how would the required inspections be conducted for residential permits? That was the question that the inspectors kind of dealt with, and it took a little bit, but they were creative thinking. They did not use an actual. They have software for it, but what they did is they just used the village portal, and they used their phones. If you go to the next slide, please. So the RVI, you know, we say, is it new technology or not? Well, it's not a very new type of inspection process. It's been evolving over the last 2 to 3 decades now. As internet speeds have improved, more people are coming online with this. RVI was mostly used for industrial and manufacturing inspections, but with COVID, building departments have looked into it and to see if they could serve their customers better with it. Today we have smartphones that have very advanced cameras, and they've made real-time live video communication easier to connect with the remote inspector. Just simply using FaceTime on the remote inspector's cell phone was a good idea for many innovative building departments. But still, many municipalities have not adopted the use of RVI technology. When all it takes is a smartphone and the ability to be able to FaceTime. The International Code Council, the ICC, conducted a recent survey and noted that 40% of building department respondents said they do not have the capability to do electronic plan review. 40% is a pretty high number. 30% do not have the capability to do electronic permitting. But what was really further out was more than 60% don't have the capability to do remote inspections. But the building departments, as Tim mentioned early on, just basically the change has always been a problem because building departments seem to have a sense that it's going along and doing things the same way. But when you have change, your staff has to learn more. You have to, if you don't have as such as Palatine does, a very helpful website to work with, you can have a difficulty trying to work with your residents and contractors. But RVI is really turning out to be an old technology that's really rapidly coming into being here. Next slide. As I mentioned before, COVID, it halted, it locked us down, but construction just had to continue. Commercial and residential construction continued during, as the municipalities locked down. The International Code Council, they write the code books that we use every day for our job. Chapter 1 of the code book, any code book, is administration. Section 107 requires all permits issued shall have the required inspections. The International Code Council CEO, Dominic Sims, points out that the country is still in the midst of hurricanes, tornadoes, wildfire, and one of the best ways to protect communities against natural hazards is through well-enforced building codes. Sims goes further on to state that properly functioning building departments, including inspections, help to reduce the disaster losses up to 25%. So what has been done about conducting the required building inspections? Well, Palatine, as some of the other municipalities did, came up with the solution of using tablets and cell phones to conduct RVI for residential permits only. The municipality was already conducting electronic building functions, so the RVI fell into it very easily. Next slide, please. So the demand for virtual RVI inspections has changed a little bit for the building departments that have moved along. Customer satisfaction, though, should always be a top priority for local government, whether it's in person or if it's on the website. Utilizing an RVI program can provide a sense of simplicity to both the contractor and the resident. You're able to get into, as in Palatine, you're able to get into the portal and it's secure. You're just into the permit that you have, and you're able to submit. You're able to see what comes back for any type of comments from the plan review, and you can go through all the way through paying and then having the permit being sent to you so you can print it out and put it in your window. Construction during the COVID, though, has been deemed essential industry. So while the building department was physically locked down, it still had to continue operating. So during COVID, many building departments have seen budget cuts that force reductions in staff. So you have to be able to be adaptable in different ways. So the building departments that have been using the RVIs, they prove to remain adaptable, and they have their inspectors using their time more efficiently. With increased productivity, you usually have increased efficiency, and that will come along. Travel time is completely removed from the inspection process. Travel time, that means that the inspector will have more time to do the RVIs. They'll be able to have more time in the office where they're not going out there onto different job sites. They can do it remotely. RVI streamlined the site inspection work exceedingly well without compromising health or safety for all the parties involved. And the last one we over here is reduce carbon emissions. The inspectors will not be out there driving their cars and running from pretty much for all the 8 hours that they're out there, 9 hours that they're out there. So we have reduced carbon emissions. We've also reduced the cost of the vehicle for the municipality, which goes back to saving the residents money in the long time.
Yeah, and Don, that's been particularly important for our Southern California agencies. The reduced carbon emissions is actually being looked at by Southern California Association of Governments and that program that Ellen mentioned at the start. And just looking at, doing online permitting, online virtual inspections, and offering more virtual city hall type of services that don't require a trip down to City Hall, SCAG is studying that reduction in vehicle miles traveled and corresponding greenhouse gas reduction and a whole host of other benefits. So it's a significant aid to reducing traffic and improving air quality. And that's really important in this time, wouldn't you say, Don?
Oh, it certainly is. And, you know, we don't have as much traffic, I don't think, as what you have out there in California, but it's still, the emissions that are put out and the time that we could lose in between inspections certainly makes up a better offering for the remote virtual inspections to be used by building departments.
Great.
So virtual technologies, they promote growth. Whatever is offered at the permit counter for the residents or the contractors should be able to be offered electronically on the jurisdiction website. Permit applications, plan reviews, they continue to come individual into Village Hall. They come in by mail, UPS, but most come in electronically. I've been in since the beginning of the year over in Palatine, and I have not seen a piece of paper yet. Everything is completely done electronically, back and forth with residents, design professionals. It makes things so much simpler. Residents and contractors, during COVID, they had to keep the projects moving. And, you know, we have municipal halls. They are the heart of the town or city. The business operation could not stop. They could not get in physically, but many the jurisdictions that close to the public, some worked in the office and others worked at home with their computer because they were able to interact with the website and with the resident and the contractor out there. Permits continued to be issued. Inspections had to be conducted. Using RVIs not only proved to function well, but it allowed the projects to continue in a timely manner. Next slide. So after COVID, what are we going to have with RVIs? Is it going to continue? Yeah, I believe that the demand and technological growth while conducting excellent customer service proves the RVI benefits will continue to advance. Post-pandemic will prove to many code officials and inspectors that RVI is very efficient and is very easy to use. Saving time and money is a customer service not to be lost. Better internet service and improved cell phone cameras will provide even much better opportunity for RVI in the future. Next slide. So we talked early in the first part about rules, policies, and procedures. Well, municipalities should sit down with their municipal corporation council with some questions. There's just a few questions that we're going to look at here. Is do we actually have the authority to conduct video inspections that were normally in-person inspections? Now, ICC does require inspections by Section 107, but the type of inspection provided is up to the municipality to do. So when you sit down with your corporation council and explain your intent and what you believe you're going to be able to do, they're going to be able to put together some type of process, and they're going to be able to have some type of, we suggest a waiver released in the municipality if the permit holder or the contractor was injured during the RVI. Now, when a permit is issued and we go in for an in-person inspection, the owner of the residence is the one that accepts any type of could be a liability at that point. So this is just a little bit more than just having just the permit being issued. You know, some municipalities don't do this, but this is probably a recommended for any municipality that intends to do any type of RVI. You know, how could you go ahead and how could you, you know, put something out there for the resident or the contractor, so they're rewarded for using the, I don't want to use the word rewarded, but for like expedited services benefit for an RVI. Would you be able to get that permit inspection possibly the same day as opposed to 24 hours in advance sometimes? It could be part of that. Next slide. And just a quick sample of a waiver of liability over here that your corporation counsel that would possibly put together. It just says that they're going to consent to the remote virtual inspection. They're responsible for their own safety. They're going to make the site available, and that this is truthfully the best of their ability. This is what they're going to do. So they just acknowledge that the RVI is sole discretion of the village to be able to conduct the RVI inspection, or if possible, it may have to revert to an in-person inspection. But what the waiver does is it just gives the homeowner a sense that they're responsible, and it does eliminate liability possibly for the municipality. Next slide.
So Don, on that, as you're moving through the legal, basically updating your codes so that you can do this, the sample liability form that you just showed it's very similar to what they would have to sign off on anyway, right? As to have an inspection done in their home or at their project site. So it's not a huge burden on them. But the point is that all of this can be done remotely once you get to this, what we've been talking about, which is an access portal for your developers, your residents and so forth to interface with the agency and provide forms like this, make their applications, make their payments. They've never had to come to City Hall or to the agency itself because they've been able to do this all online.
Yes, this would even just be an electronic signature at the bottom over there. You know, it's people may live in a municipality for 50 years and never go to City Hall ever. They might get a shed permit for the back that they have to go to into City Hall, and probably for the first time to be able to be in the hall. But what this does is it allows the electronic part of the website allows any resident or contractor to be able to apply for the permit. Go ahead with this and sign an electronic signature onto it, and then after that, it's all remote inspection time.
Right. And I know we're going to talk about that in the steps as you're working through this, but for the audience, the reason why you could perhaps prioritize these is because of the time savings and the fact that your staff is just basically picking up this virtually, and all of the back and forth that can be accomplished electronically versus having to spend time at the public counter or responding to phone calls and so forth, and certainly not having to drive out to the job site. So it's just something to think about on why this service could be a lot more efficient and maybe move these applicants through faster than you would be able to if you were doing everything physically.
And that's where the expedited permits could come into play on this. What we're going to do for the next few slides is we will go over the RVI inspection steps. And they're close to an actual in-person inspection, but without having an impact on the environment by requiring less vehicle traffic, while saving the taxpayer money by increasing the department efficiency. Working with the Corporation Council should have helped in putting the policies in place for how an RVI is conducted. Probably could be the weakest link will be the resident preparation. They're going to be doing something that they've never thought they'd ever do before. They're going to have to use some tools. The ICC has concluded that a clear understanding of the RVI requirements and communications through the process by all parties involved is paramount to the completion of a successful RVI inspection. So what we're looking for is, we're going to go into this a little bit further, but the resident has to have a clear understanding what they're going to be showing to the remote inspector, and the remote inspector on the other end has to have a clear understanding of what's going on, how will they instruct the resident to be able, or the contractor to move their phone. Next one there. So scheduling, what types of inspections are involved? Well, almost all the building departments that I've looked at, their RVI is just for residential construction. It could include commercial as time goes along and remote inspections become more comfortable, inspectors become more comfortable with the RVI. But the first thing for scheduling an RVI, you have to determine if your project is one of the qualified RVI inspection types. You'd have to go to the municipal website, and what I've seen on a majority of the websites is they'll have an area that points out exactly what they're going to allow to be part of the RVI inspection. And almost everyone has come up with the air conditioner change out or the furnace change out. They're simple. The owner can just put the camera right there, and they can understand what's going on as they're holding the phone. They can do water softeners. You have kitchens and kitchen and bathroom remodels. There's some that have gone across and have done some small additions that they limited at about 600 to 800 square feet. So it's there right now. It's there are limits to what inspectors will allow an RVI for. They've contractors and residents. You can use it. Well, you can even, for a design professional, if they would be involved with the project, they could certainly use the FaceTime to get back to the inspector. The list of approved inspections, though, can change. As we have here, the list may change with little or no notice. There may be more on there. Homeowners and contractors can use this new RVI tool for keeping their projects going along in a timely sequence. An appointment request by the permit holder or their agent for an inspection may be submitted through the municipal website portal, as if it would be done for an in-person inspection. The person scheduling the RVI must have the address, permit number, type, and number of inspections available, requested and available for that particular location. And then they'll have a time period. They'll usually say on the website that they do it between, let's say, 9 a.m. to 2:38 p.m. Scheduled a minimum of 1 business day prior to the requested date. The permit holder or the agent shall electrically sign the required waiver prior to scheduling the inspection. And as we do with in-person inspections, anybody that meets you there and is going to take you through has to be 18 years old or older. If they have an adult that is with them to perform the RVI, that could be, again, that's part of the rules that you would put together, and that's something that could be allowed, but that's up to your municipality for that. So the resident preparation. Now, this is probably something new for most. If we have a resident that's there, contractors, it might even be a little bit different for being able to use a phone as opposed to the face-to-face to talk with an inspector. But you have to have at least a minimum of a 4G smartphone or a tablet that will be able to give you good Wi-Fi connectivity while you're at the location. You shall have access to FaceTime or a Zoom app, and you have to have a working email address that the municipality can be able to contact you and send you the actual pass or fail notice. You have to have the copy of the permit available out there, approved plans on site. And if you have something like, it could be a fireplace, manufactured fireplace, you need to have the installation instructions so that if the remote inspector sees something and wants to clarify it a little bit better, you may have to go and show the installation instructions. But the big thing is you need to have the necessary tools on the type of inspection. Now, that's a tape measure, could be a level, it could be a GFCI if you're having to check an outlet. You may need a step ladder, definitely going to need a flashlight. You might even need a selfie pole. A selfie pole might come good in hands when you're trying to test the smoke alarms and the carbon monoxide alarms. That would work out really well. You need to clear the area of unnecessary objects. You just want to be able to see there just like you would for an in-person inspection. And then you got to be prepared to follow the directions from the inspector. So let's see how we figure out how some of the challenges here. You know, accepting still photographs of construction projects has been a negative answer for most building departments. You know, how do we know that's the job site location that they say it is? Taking pictures has never been sufficient for inspection purposes. But now the question of location might be there, but with the live virtual video, we can determine if this is truly the location of the project. So the list for RVI approved inspections is still up to the inspector. If the inspector cannot see the inspection site easily, or for whatever reason, the virtual inspection may be paused or failed until either a better video or an in-person inspection can be scheduled. All parties have to be able to use the cell phone or tablet in a way that both the job site person and the remote inspector can communicate easily. The remote inspector shall be proficient in the use of FaceTime and have practiced on how to provide instructions to be followed at the job site. Many of the building departments have actually come up with a checklist that they use for the RVI, where they may not use that when they go into it. They're so used to doing in-person inspections, but to keep on track, they use an actual checklist. Next one. So the day of the RVI, make sure that the smartphone, tablet's fully charged. Turn off your phone or tablet notifications for the video call. To get a phone message or something come in can disrupt it, and you could fall out of the contact with the remote inspector. So in the morning of or afternoon, however the time is arranged, be prepared to accept a video call at the scheduled time. You have the inspection area well lighted. Without the phone light probably is not just enough to do it. The inspector is going to give you instructions and follow the request of the inspector. Make sure to move slowly with the inspector with the camera so the inspector can see the images easily. It's going to be conducted following standard operating procedure as if it's being conducted as an in-person inspection. So, but prepared to be taking notes of any items requiring correction. Person should be able to take the notes even though the inspector is going to give either a pass or a fail. If it's a fail, there certainly will be a full set of how they're to be corrected. Next one. So when we start out, the beginning of the RVI, we need to make sure that the job site is identified well. So we start out by looking from the street view up at the house. We can also look at the street signs out there. Look at the structure. You should have the address showing. The person that's holding the cell phone over there should be able to show you exactly where the street is and should be able to show you the permit in the window. So then what you've done is you just follow the directions of the inspector. Generally, they'll have you moving from the left to the right and in a certain path all the time. But be prepared. the person has to be prepared to perform some physical tasks. You're going to have to probably be bending down to move something. You might have to be lifting something. You might have to reach out and reach the phone up so the inspector can see a detail of the framing. And you might even have to climb on a step ladder out there. So be prepared for a physical day. The inspection itself, anybody that's in the house or the construction crew, they should be notified that a virtual inspection is in place and to stop working during the inspection. Have the lighting available for the area to be inspected. Can't say this enough because you've got to be able to see what you're doing out there. Must be able to use the measuring tape and other tools that may be needed. So you're going to have to be able to use the measure, how to be able to, if the inspector would say, gee, measure those studs, they look a little farther apart and they're supposed to be by the plan 16 inches on center, and they pull the tape across and they're 24. Now the inspector has to fail that part. They'll keep going, that they'll get all the inspection done. They have to still be able to communicate with the inspector and follow the instructions. They have to be able to understand what the inspector is saying. If they're not followed, the inspection could be canceled and another inspection request has to be rescheduled. The biggest thing is if it is failed, if it's not approved, they do not cover anything that has not been approved. And the other part is don't write on the permit card because the inspector, when they do come by for the final, they will take care of it at that point. Now this could be used, the one slide on the left, there's like an arrow that goes up there. This cannot be just for regular inspections. We could do this for inspections that were failed prior and we have a re-inspection to do. So let's say we had this truss up in here that it did not have sufficient support to bring it all the way down, the load bearing all the way down. So this could be here. They could prove it here. They could show it that it's all been taken care of, and you could go ahead and have a very simple re-inspection done, and no one has to be in the house for it. Next one, please. Inspection results. Yeah, when it's virtual and it's been completed and the inspector has seen enough to make a judgment of pass or fail, they will let the contractor or homeowner know the result before the end of the call. We've got their email address, so a follow-up email will be sent to the email on record, which could be both the contractor and the homeowner, but it will go out later in the day. The inspection results are included into the permit file. If there was any videos that were taken of the inspection area, they can be uploaded into the permit file, all electronically. No paper has to be, no photos have to come in. And the results are available online within a 24-hour period from the time they take the inspection call. So again, we need to be able to provide a service for our residents, and the RVI is really starting to come into that part of it there.
Don, wouldn't you say also on the on the physical part of it, if depending on what type of inspection the agency allows, a lot of this will be the contractor going back and taking these pictures, getting up on ladders, using tape measures. It's not always going to be just the homeowner doing this, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it depends. We've ran into it though. A lot of it, the homeowner was doing the project themselves and didn't have a contractor with it. So that's where we had some. It took a little bit of getting used to for the residents. But if you're working with a contractor, they could be to the point also that they don't understand how to use a FaceTime. So they need to be able to just as ICC said, you have to be able to communicate to be able to make this RVI work together.
Well, when they see your efficiency, though, I think they'll see they'll be motivated to know how to use their cell phone for inspection work, I would think.
Yeah, that's exactly true. That's it. They're very happy with how this system works. I know I get comments from it. We're actually in Palatine right now. We've because of the COVID, we're pretty much not there every day. We don't look at it that way. The Village Hall has been open for several months now, and what we're doing is we're just going ahead and using in-person for our residential inspections and always have been for the commercial. We still do the CDC follow-up, but there are some residents that still have a little bit of anxiety about someone coming into their house.
Mhm.
And so we've continued, and that's an option that they can use to be able to do the RVI and give it a service for that.
Great.
Next one. Maintaining records, it's really not much different than the in-person part of it. Municipality, which has the interactive website portal, provides residents and contractors the opportunity to access information on permit applications in real time. As soon as it's put in, they can see that it's there. They can see when a permit is approved and that they can go in, they understand what the permit is. They'll go into the website, that they can get the pricing on it. They can pay for it over the website, and the permit is issued over the website. You don't have to come into the village hall. And when the RVI is completed, the permit electronic file is updated with the results of the RVI inspection. Homeowners, contractors are able to see the results any time of day after results are posted. Being able to use that municipal website portal is easy and can be used 24 hours a day.
And that's significant. You know, I think the transparency of having the ability to do that, to search your own permit and plan records, I think is a huge help to not just the customers, but also any field staff that are trying to look for inspection records. Now they don't have to come back to City Hall or Village Hall. You know, they can access it via the tablets and things that you mentioned earlier in the webinar. But I think the biggest advantage here for the agency is the lack of papers. When you say, I mean, we've both worked in agencies where you're just, you know, the amount of storage required for physical plans, for all of the inspections and so forth is huge. And so this can be a big savings if you can digitize it.
Oh, it certainly is. Like I said, I've been there since the beginning of the year, and I have not seen a piece of paper yet. They have 3 sets of drawings that are old permits that are out there that are still open for commercial, and those are the only ones that they have anywhere stored. Otherwise, it's all electronic. It is so easy. I can go back into any, if I have a permit number or an address, I can, within seconds, I can pull it up and have all the information, just as the resident can do for their own house. I mean, their piece of property, they're able to go in. It's a secured system. Not everybody can get into anybody else's over there. So you mean you're allowed to only your own. But this electronic is, it's been, I remember myself, even my last 15 years, I was a director of code, and we still had a lot of paper plans. Just today with this, maintaining the records is easy as can be, and it's easy to come up and bring it up on your screen. On the next one. So we look at the benefits of RVI and the website portals themselves. So customer service, that's all that a building department has to offer, whether it's in person or if it's online. By using the virtual website, the homeowner and contractor can complete the entire permitting process without leaving their home, their office, or a vehicle even. They can work off their tablets also. Some residents seem to have a negative view of building departments and their rules. So, and I've heard a lot of that. But meeting the residents' expectation of a well-managed building department can actually encourage more permits being applied for. If they feel that the department is not just an old clunker, let's say, but they are well managed and they have great facilities. They have the website makes a big difference out there. So the contact between the design professionals and code officials, that may even improve the relationships between them. The RVI should become a permitted option for all building departments. This is for residents like we have that have a concern about being exposed to other people during, still with the COVID area here. Homeowners may use the portal with a secured password to view previous permits for their residents. The options are almost unbelievable.
So Don, just to kind of, if an agency is interested in starting RVIs, basically the steps that we covered today were that you need to have legal authority, first of all, to use video inspection. You have to have some technology in place. I think most agencies have websites these days. Ideally, you would have permit software with one of these access portals that we've been describing, where you can pass documents back and forth digitally rather than over the counter. And then third thing is that you need to put out a sample list or a list of application types, permit applications that you will allow virtual inspection on, so people can read which ones are allowed to do that and what the requirements are. So with that, I think an agency, it's important to know that you don't have to do all your permits at once, right? You can do just a limited list and try this out.
Yeah, you can work your, just like putting one foot in the water, your toe in the water, let's say. And it's easier. I know the inspectors up at Palatine up there, they started off with just using their cell phone, and then it became very easy for them to be able to talk to the clients out there. And the contractors are ecstatic about it because it just makes things so much easier for them. And I can see this going into some of the simpler commercial projects out there. There's still going to be projects that we're never going to be able to use this on, but the benefits of the RVI and how it's going to expand, I think, are very, very well looked forward to.
Great, Don. Appreciate all that information. I think we have a few minutes for questions, Ellen, if any have come in, or.
Yep, we do have a handful of questions here. And Don, that was a great segue to the first one that came in here. Do virtual inspections include inspections for commercial properties, or is it only residential?
At this time, almost everyone that I've talked to, there's only a couple in Florida that do virtual commercial inspections, but anyone else that I've talked with has been just residential at this time.
Okay. And then the next question here says, what is the electronic storage capacity required to properly maintain records?
Well, and I can answer that one. I talk about that in the first webinar and in the white paper, that especially if you go with a web-based piece of permit software, it comes with virtually unlimited storage capacity. And so that's why we feel that, we recommend that as the way to go if you're going to do permit software, so that these digital files, you don't have to worry about them being stored on your own server and something happening to the server. And I might add, the security on the web-based stuff has gotten so much better in the last few years. It's really I think the state-of-the-art place to keep your files for this type of work.
And that's one thing also that I have talked to some residents and and they've mentioned about having the web-based like that. And they've had their own problems with some of their having a computer at home. But you're correctly right. These web-based programs are so secure that we don't have to worry about having any other person get into their file.
Okay, there's a question here. Is there a different protocol for inspections that may involve notification to another agency, such as a utility company?
And that would be a good one. For, let's say, we're changing over the electric, upgrading from 100 amp to a 200 amp service. The inspector would go and do the RVI, and the whoever's there would be holding the camera around and showing where the ground goes in and how the wires are put together into the main meter itself. And then once the inspection has been done and it's been approved, usually what they'll do is they'll just put a sticker on it, and then a lot of times the utility will come past and just go ahead and hook up when they see the sticker, especially when we have subdivisions. But with this, you could go right ahead, and as you're going back and emailing the contractor that it's okay, you could also go and email it out to the utility that this property is passed and it's ready to be able to go ahead and add the upgrade.
There's a question: if the contractor or homeowner does not have the capabilities or equipment for a remote inspection, what are their options?
That's that should be discussed during the scheduling part of it. Usually if it's the first time that they're doing a website or an RVI inspection, the actual inspectors over there in Palatine would call and they talk with the individual and ask them what's going to be done over there, and do they have a tape measure and do they know how to use it? And they've generally got responses back, yes, but if there's a problem that they couldn't do it, well, then I think the resident could probably, or the contractor, let's say, if they can't do it and the resident can't do it, maybe the resident's daughter or son or granddaughter could come along and help. With them being there, you could have someone under 18 years of age and to go. If there's no way that they can be able to use the tools that needed, because if you have a view of studs together, you can't tell if they're 14 inches, 16 inches, 20, whatever. You need to have a tape measure out there and be able to use it. So at that point, they either have to find someone to help them and assist them, or it's going to have to be an in-person.
Okay, and then the last question here says, do the same codes apply to a virtual inspection as an on-site inspection?
Yeah, that's exactly for both of them, whether it's an in-person or RVI. And that would also be another reason for the waiver of liability over there, because that was one of them that a lot of the agencies put in, is that they understand it is going to be to the adopted codes of the municipality. And so they're aware of that it needs to be adopted, whether it's a resident or contractor, to be able to know that they are they have to follow the adopted codes of the municipality.
Okay, great. Well, and that takes us to the end of the questions that have been submitted. So on behalf of Tim and Don, thank you all for your time today. On this slide, you see some links to resources available to you should you like more information. Please follow us on social media for further insights. Reach out to Tim or to Don with any further questions. And also watch your inbox for an email from HR Green that will include your certificate for your CEUs, as well as a recording of this webinar. So with that, have a great rest of your Thursday.
Thanks everybody.
All.